Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. Welcome to Coffee, Tea, You and Me, the next edition of my weekly podcast, video cast, all kinds of good stuff going on. And we are broadcasting live on Facebook, on YouTube, soon to be LinkedIn, as soon as we get permission from them. We do this every single week with the sole purpose of empowering small businesses all over the world. I've been doing this program now for about 20 years, and it's been my pleasure and my joy to work with entrepreneurs, with business leaders, with sales consultants, and people from all over the country. We've impacted thousands of people. Since March, we've been doing the live video portion, but before then, we were basically, March of 2020. So it's been almost getting close to the end of a year now. We've been doing this broadcast live, and you can download and go back and look at all the previous episodes. You can look back at the times when we worked with so many different leaders and co-hosts, and we're going to be entering a new season here coming into April. We're going to be talking about just a ton of things for people. If you haven't already, do me a favor, hit the like button. And share this video with as many people as you can. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and subscribe. If you are on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, because the more people we are able to empower and impact with this show, the more we're able to do amazing things for our community and really do what we can to uplift the small business community, especially in this time of COVID-19, when we're having just a lot of issues with people finding opportunities and being able to nurture those opportunities and win. This is the most important thing that we do, and this is what we're all about. Today's show is going to be super special. Today, we're talking about everything it takes to build and empower connection in your world and in your universe. And this is so important. I mean, we've done tons of research on this and tons of practice, and we help thousands of entrepreneurs really figure out how to connect. Even before COVID-19, we were studying and working on this. In fact, getting connected is a part of the 9 steps to creating powerful business professional relationships and making them work. If you want to get a copy of the 9 steps, you can either go backwards and look at some of the other shows. I always kind of post that in the notes. But if you want to have me post a copy of that for you right here today, do me a favor, hit me up in the chat, say, look, I want the 9 steps, and I will share it with you. I have no problems with that. All I ask is that you don't keep me a secret. Go ahead and feel free to use that information, that content. There's tons of exercises and all kinds of good stuff in there for you. Share them with other people. Share them with people that you know that you really want to work with and want to see. I can't imagine anything more important than that. We're also going to be talking about some of the things that we got going on, new events that we have coming up, opportunities for you to get involved. I know that next month in April, we're having the brand new Leverage Up conference. We're kind of refacing that conference and doing something very special. We're going to have not just great speakers, but tons of prizes and giveaways. This is all for the benefit of local charities. And so I would love for you to feel like if you want to participate, if you want to grow with us, if you want to find opportunities to work with other entrepreneurs and business leaders, this is an excellent thing for you to plug into. Find yourself just a partnership, find yourself a sponsorship. If you can't do that, maybe just belong or donate. You know, there's all kinds of ways you can engage with us and participate in taking business back to small business where it belongs. Most people don't know that over 90% of all businesses in the world are small businesses. We're talking about micro business. We're talking about service businesses, people who are doing it all alone, sole proprietors that are making it happen. And they account for more than 50% of the global economy. This is critical. We need to rescue them. We need to make sure we're doing everything we can to pay attention to them, to help them design and develop better products, better services, and make sure that they're providing jobs and employment opportunities for themselves and others that they may bring on. Okay, having said that, I want to do our little branding moment here. This is a wonderful video that I have, and I always use this to start the show off. So here you go. I truly love that thing. I see we're having some people gathering into the studio audience. It's so good to see you. Scott, I see you out there. If you are coming in, as you come in, feel free, do me a favor, let us know if there's something that you want people to know about you, your business, anything that you're doing. Go ahead and let us know. Let us know who you are, what you're all about, what business you're in. I know Scott is a wonderful construction engineer. He's into BIM, and that's the kind of software you use to create construction projects and to price and cost out those construction projects. Critically important for anybody who's in construction. As a matter of fact, there's some new stuff coming up that I think in the state of Virginia that the governor just approved when it comes to making it easier for construction management people to do more business with the state of Virginia and for the state of Virginia. So if I can, I'll dig up some of that stuff during the midst of our contact, or if you have any questions, feel free to load them up. As you come into the room, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. I have no problems with that. Say whatever you want to say, post whatever links you want to post. If there's something that you want people to get to or get back to, I want to point you to our information for today's program. And I'm just going to slide it into the chat right now. If you haven't had a chance to, go ahead and download that document. That document is what we're going to be talking from today. That's what we're going to be using to talk about connection and why connection is so important to everybody we work with. We're going to be going through the big ideas. We're going to go through the 7 strategies that you need to connect. We're going to go through some of the ideas that maybe you hadn't thought about when it comes to biblical reference and other things that maybe we can connect with, because there's always been a process by which human beings have naturally, quite in our DNA, have used to build powerful connections with each other. And it's a critical thing for us to understand, to know, and to use. And when you think about connection, I want you to think about what matters to you most and why it matters to you most. Most of us don't really think or talk about this a lot, because when we think about connection to other people, we in the Western communities have been taught that, if anything is to be, it's up to me. We've been taught to be by ourselves, to do for ourselves, to think everything through for ourselves, and to do everything in isolation. And that is so against our human nature. Our human nature is to be with one another, is to share with one another, is to proceed in life and experience life with and through one another. And so sharpening our skills at developing and keeping and maintaining connections, it would seem to be imperative just on the surface, right? But now we've done a whole lot of studies, and the studies show quite dramatic results. For instance, just from an economic point of view, when people find themselves connected to a strong network of others, people that don't look like them, people that don't necessarily come from the same areas they may be associated through some kind of thing, but when they find that happening, the value proposition for them is like having a 200% raise. Think about that. A 200% raise. What would it feel like to you right now to know, without a shadow of a doubt, anything that you wanted to do, anything you are, anything you want to participate in, anything you want to complete would be greater by 200%. That's real actual economic valuation that economists have put on the value of connecting and being connected in the organization, with other people, whatever. So if you want to understand people have a hard time, it's like, well, why should I be friends with somebody? Why should I be associated with someone? Why should they matter to me? Well, the reality is the value that you place on that relationship as it continues to grow only increases. And that value is something that is literally irreplaceable, because that person that you're connected to is the person that helps drive that value, and the relationship that you have is what helps drive that value. And it's something that you should strive for in any relationship, and something that you forever want to continue to create. So let's talk about it. Let's get into the details. Okay. So I start this research off, if you're looking at page 1, I start this research off with a couple key ideas. And the key idea is, kind of what happens to all of us when we move into a new territory, when we get a new job, when we have big changes happen to our lives. No matter what those changes are, typically what happens is we fall out of connection. We fall out of connection with the people that we were connected to previous to the change. And in order to feel good about who we are and what we're doing again, and to really, really get some value out of what we're doing, we need to reconnect. Now, this is where the skill comes in. If you don't know how to jump into new connections, build new connections, create new opportunities for yourself and for others, you should listen to everything we're talking about right now, because this matters tremendously, not just to your personal or your business success, but to your health and wellness and your happiness as a person. There's a couple of big ideas we're going to cover. We're going to try to cover them all today. Is number 1, never abdicate your responsibility to connect and be with others. Number 2, always prepare to have big talk with the people that you're connecting to, because as you develop deeper and deeper conversation and discussion, you're going to find that that connection creates more and more value to you and to other people. It just requires you to pay attention. Number 3, when you're talking about social media posts, when you're talking about using online tools like this one to connect to other people, you have to figure out ways to make it more about them and less about you. And so think about that. Try the Pareto Principle and flip it upside down. The Pareto Principle says that 80% of all success happens from 20% of the people. So if 80% of your social media posts and contacts and in relationships and so on and so forth that's the ratio you use, 80% of about them and then 20% about me, you're less likely to create the kind of burnout that we see happening when people use social media as a mass marketing tool. And they're always talking about what they can offer, what they can do, what they can share. They don't spend anywhere near enough of time in terms of how they relate to and connect with people online, dealing with who other people are, paying attention to other people, and sharing what they know about other people to other people. Speak your truth. Very, very important. You need to be authentically connected to who you are and be able to articulate it. I'm sorry. You have to be able to articulate who you are. If you can't do that well, you're going to be horrible at driving and developing connection. Because people ultimately want to know not just what can you do, but who you are and why who you are should be significant to them. And if you can't articulate that, if you can't take your strengths and ask yourself, what would happen if I absolutely multiplied my strengths? If I went to the nth level, if I became the perfect person at whatever my gift or strength is, what would I be able to be, do, or have? You should ask yourselves those questions. Those are very, very important, because when you can answer those questions, then you can speak your truth. Other people will jump on board. Other people will see your vision for where you're going and what you want to do with your life, and they'll be happy to participate and grow with you. The next point is you need to focus on consistency. When you are inconsistent with people, then you lose trust. You don't want to lose trust. You want to gain and get more and more ever increasing trust. That means you have to make promises and keep promises and follow through and follow up and do all the things we talked about in the first 3 lessons. And if you don't know those first 3 lessons, go back in the past and watch some of the previous episodes to this particular series. In fact, this is lesson number 4. And so if you go back to the last 3 lessons, you'll be all caught up to the where we are and going into the 9 steps process. But focus on consistency, making sure that you're always delivering on time what you say, the way you say it. You don't want to over deliver and you don't want to under deliver. That whole mantra of under promise and then over deliver. Well, that works the first couple times you're going to be dealing with people, But over time, it looks like you're holding out on them. It looks like you're not delivering what you say you're going to deliver. It looks like you're purposefully trying to create a false narrative that you overperform when you're just doing what you would normally do anyway. And so that becomes very, 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 very inauthentic over time. You know, the first couple times it's amazing, it's wonderful, and it's wow, you know, that kind of stuff. But you can't sustain that. You really can't sustain over performance in any relationship, because over time it'll meet out to the wrong. So make sure you be consistent and do what you say you're going to do exactly the way you say you're going to do it to the best of your ability, and articulate it up front as much as you can. Articulate your expectations up front as much as you can, and be consistent with that. The next thing you have to think about is you have to get yourself. In order for you to truly speak your truth, like we said earlier, you have to know your truth. You have to do the assessment, do the work, really, really figure out. In fact, the person you think you are is probably not the person that other people think you are. So you might be gifted in something, or know that you're gifted in something, but that the way that gift can be articulated and really, really shared with other people comes out when you're bold enough to ask the question to people that you work with, people that you work for, people that work for you. Try to ask the question about what they think your greatest gifts and strengths are and how they see you using them. And then you'll find out a lot more about yourself than you probably ever would will it now. This is very tricky because you have to give people permission to give you appropriate, honest, real-time feedback. And that takes a little bit of trust. They have to be able to trust you in order for them to give you that real-time feedback. Hopefully, I think I see a couple more people joining on board with us today. And I want to make sure that if you haven't already, go ahead and put your information in the chat so people can get in contact with you if you have a business. And if you're new to the call, I definitely want to introduce you. So if there's somebody out there who hasn't already signed in or hasn't already, let us know who you are, where you're coming from. That would be very, very appropriate. Even if you're watching the recording afterwards, go ahead and put your information in the chat, because that's how we keep the conversation going. That's how we keep the discussion running. And that is very, very important to building and maintaining connection. That's what we're talking about today. The next part of getting big ideas when it comes to making connection is getting feedback. Feedback is critical. You want to be good at asking for and receiving feedback as often as is appropriate. Asking for feedback when it's not appropriate is very intimidating to other people. And so you want to make sure that you have a level of engagement before you ask for feedback, and the kind of engagement that matches up emotionally and socially with the feedback that you're asking for, right? If you ask me for feedback about something that I did not witness or see or understand, then you're going to make me feel bad, and I'm not going to be able necessarily to answer you and do something well. So you have to make sure you are good at taking the temperature of the room, that you're good at understanding how other people feel and might feel about what you're doing. Okay, the next thing is never quit improving your relationships. This is critically important. A lot of times people will take relationships for granted, and they will think, well, we've gotten a relationship to a really good start. Maybe we've worked on a project together, or maybe we've done something that we both can appreciate. And so we're using that now. And so there's nothing more we need to do. And I can go on and build a new relationship. And I'll tell you that you need to have a maintenance program in effect that you both agree on. That's really all about maintaining your relationship. Because out of sight is out of mind. Out of touch is out of mind. And if you don't really have an active relationship, you have an inactive one that can offer no resources to you, that you can't leverage anymore. You can't do anything with it if you're not doing anything with it. Okay, so those are the big ideas we're going to talk about today. I want to share a couple things in just terms of illustrations before we move on. If you're looking at our document that's in the chat, I want you to hit page 8, and I want you to look at the illustration here on page 8. Let me see if I can blow it up a little bit for myself. Yeah. Oh, wow. That's too much. You can't see it, but I can. Okay. So here's what the deal is. When you're looking at this illustration, looking at the top of page 8, you're seeing an illustration of what we call the connections that happen in a typical social connection, right? You see the people that are in the circle. These are people that are called, quote unquote, in your inner circle, and they are all connected to you. You are in the middle. Now, I want you to imagine that there are some people in that inner circle who you have stronger connections with than others. In a typical scenario and how your brain works, that line between you and that person would be stronger. So the line may have the same thickness that you see on this illustration, right? But in reality, you have thicker lines, you have more impressive connections, you have deeper, more meaningful connections to people, that certain people in your network, right? Now, people in your network also have connections to people inside the network and outside the network. And so that's where you see these people who are outside the network. And maybe you see maybe one or two that are not connected at all to anyone in your network, not even you. But the strength of all these connections make up everything when it comes to power and opportunity and information flow and everything in your network. In fact, the studies now show that 95% of all of our personal success, 95% of every job, every opportunity, every business transaction, everything we do, especially at the higher levels, comes from the strength of our network and our ability to negotiate that network and leverage opportunities in ways that we need to. This requires a lot of skill. This requires a lot of talent. This is not something that you can do. And in fact, I'm studying this more and more often. People who have neurodivergent tendencies, meaning they don't focus and make connections the way everybody else does, and they don't necessarily have the right social skills or the right habits to put in place when they're doing things, they tend not to be able to make these connections very well, which causes them to experience a tremendous isolation. It causes them to experience a tremendous disconnect with the rest of the universe. And that's to the benefit of no one. Because there are people who say might be autistic, or they may have ADHD or some other type of issue that prevents them from making the normal kinds of connections that most of us can make. Because most of us are neurotypical and they are neurodivergent, right? Don't let me get in. Don't get me into that topic. I know some of you all may know some people who are neurodivergent, and you understand how difficult it is. Sometimes they don't know how to make eye contact. They don't know when and where to smile. They don't know, how to use their body or facial gestures. That they don't know. Like, most of the communication that you have is it's not just verbal. And some of them that are just maybe even verbally challenged as well. So you have a lot of things that are making it difficult for them to build strong connections. And it's so important. We're going to get into that in just a minute. So let's go back up to, the 7 strategies to connect with. And again, I don't have the time to take a deep dive into all of these strategies with you, but I'm hoping to cover them in a broad level. I'm hoping to answer any questions that you may have when it comes to using these connections and driving them forward in yourself. And anytime, if I'm talking about something that you have a thought about or you want to key in on, definitely throw that information in the chat. And if I'm not on it at the moment, I will come back to it, and maybe we'll have more of an interactive opportunity to share. Now, the 7 strategies to connect with begin with the first one, which I need you to understand. When it comes to building powerful relationships, you are in charge. You are the quarterback. You have to be responsible for this thing, right? Because you know what you want. You know who most likely can help you get there. You have the ability to do the research. You have the ability to make the connections, but you also have the ability to identify who you need to connect to. And this is your work. No one else can do this for you. No one else can say for you who you are and what you deserve in what you're supposed to be doing. I mean, yes, there are some people who have the gift of prophecy and they can tell you a lot, but you still have to do the work. You still have to be in charge of your future and your destiny. So there's some key points that I want to make with you when it comes to that. When you are first to make a relationship happen, when you're first to initiate or engage with someone else that you want to be in a relationship with or could think you might want to be in a relationship with, you have to be bold enough to declare your interest right up front. Tell them who they are to you and why you think you want to be connected to them. Why do you think you're interested in driving a relationship with them? This is critical. A lot of times, when we meet people, we dance around this issue so long and so deeply that we forget that, people need to be relevant. People need to be meaningful. They need to do meaningful things. They need to feel significant. And if you start immediately attracting their interest by showing why and how you're attracted to them. And so most values and principles follow one another. If you want people to see you as trustworthy, to see you as friendly and kind and patient and interested and interesting and all these different things, you have to first do those things to them. You have to first be interested in them. You have to first be friendly with them. You have to first be open with them. You have to first care about them. You are in charge of that. No one else can do that for you. A lot of us try to abdicate this responsibility to social media or marketing strategy or whatever that is. But the reality is, if it's not personal for me, then it doesn't matter to me because I don't matter. If I know you sent the same blanket cover email out to everybody in your network and you're saying the same things to everybody, whether they're going to be a referral source or whether they're going to be a client or whether they're going to be just a friend or an associate or whatever that is, and it's nothing personal to the message, nothing that sparks my interest or whatever, then I'm not going to listen to you after a while. I'm not going to hear you. It doesn't matter how many times you send me, because guess what? I'll put you in the spam box, or I'll just figure out another way to ignore you. And that's very, very important that you don't set yourself up to lose the attention of other people, that you don't set yourself up to be ignored by other people by not skillfully figuring out how to appropriately engage them. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. Number 2, you need to evaluate your current network. The people that you know right now, not only do they know a lot about you, but they know what it feels like and what it means to engage with you. That's going to give you some data, some information that you can share with others. You can share with others when people say, you know what? What I know about Marvin is this. He is very keenly interested in the people that he works with. He pays attention to the people that he works with. He listens to them. He finds out what their love language is. And he tries to make sure that whenever he's with them or talking to them, that he uses their voice inflection, or he uses their language. He uses the things that they're familiar with to drive the connection, to build deeper and more meaningful connection. He's a passionate listener. If you say that about me to someone else, they're more likely to want to meet me than they would if you just said, I know Marvin, he's a great coach. Because my competency and my skill as a coach is nowhere near as attractive as the content of my character. And so what you want other people to say about you is you want them to relay not just who you are and what you do, but you want them to relay the competence inside of your character. They want you to be able to see how special you are, how wonderful you are, how talented you are, how gifted you are. What makes them feel special about you is what they want to transfer to someone else, not just what you do. And I think that's a disconnect for a lot of people because we've gotten so far away from community. We've gotten so far away from what matters most to human beings. And when we do that, we make some really bad mistakes that it's hard to bounce back from. Okay, so let's make sure that when we're using social media and other tools, that you really, really think about ways to actively engage with people, ways to not just send messages out or post messages or pictures or whatever that is, but to actively engage. Find out who's paying attention to you and find out what they're valuing from you that makes some sense. Find out what they value from you that maybe they can share with other people and be able to articulate it. What is it like to be in relationship with you? What does it mean to other people? How do you know? Because if you're just thinking about it by yourself and you're not getting any feedback from other people, really you don't know. And you're guessing. And you don't want to guess when it comes to making promises to new people that you develop new relationships with. Now, I put a lot of links in here. So for those of you who are looking at the document, you'll be able to look at some of the research that I did to pull this together. And I'm getting better and better and better at creating training and creating information with document links and things that go back to, you know, where the original idea kind of came from and what supports it. And so you're going to see a lot of that in this document and other things I'm going to do here in the future. I'm learning. Okay, so number 3 in your 7 big ideas is to think about what you like about you. Really be able to know that and articulate. I told you earlier, when you can express your true self, when you can truly say to someone else, this is who I am, and this is why you would want to be in relationship with me, you have done more than most people will ever do. And most people don't even know how to articulate that. They don't know how to do this. So I'm going to suggest a process for you. I created a program called True Voice. True Voice is a questionnaire that allows people to speak to their hopes, their dreams, their gifts, their passions in a way that they never may have articulated ever before to anyone else. And I want you to think about what's special when you are able to interview someone else and make them fall in love with you just because you ask them questions that no one else has ever asked them, and no one else has ever cared to really, really dig deep enough into who they are. They're gonna feel special about you. It's like having Barbara Walters or Oprah interview you. When you look at the True Voice questionnaire, and it's very, very powerful, very, very passionate. If anybody wants a copy of it, you know, I'll be more than happy to post it in the chat, because I think that it's a critical exercise. You have to. Now, one of the reasons why I mentioned it in this section is because you can discover yourself with the True Voice interview questions. If you ask the True Voice interview questions to yourself and articulate those answers on the document, in the form, or whatever, you know, whatever piece of paper you have or whatever journal you're keeping, you'll start to develop a language that articulates who you are more so than what it is that you do. What you do largely comes from a job description, comes from somebody else's definition of what your job is or what your responsibilities are and all that kind of good stuff. Maybe what you've been taught, maybe all that kind of stuff. But how you do it and who you are and how you express it, that's just purely you. And the better you can be on articulating that to other people, the more meaningful you can be to and with them. And it's so important if you're going to build relationships, if you're going to build, especially relationships that you're going to want to leverage. You want to do that. Okay, number 4, you want to look for interest bridges. What do I mean by that? Clearly, there are great benefits to people working together, learning how to work together, learning how to function together, whether it's a mentor relationship or some kind of mentee relationship. I hate the word mentee because it reminds me of manatee. There is no word called mentee, by the way. It's mentor protege. You're looking for a therapist, or you're looking for somebody who can be a coach for you. You're looking for somebody who can support you in some way. This is a personal and professional relationship you want to get into. And there's a tremendous benefits for both of you if you do the right things. If you've studied how to develop and use meaningful relationships, I suggest that, you know, you practice this as much as possible, because it means a lot to be in relationship. I see a typo here I gotta make sure I get rid of. But right here, the links to super benefits to playing and working together, right? There are some things that you're going to want to know about playing and working together that is critical to your success. You need to read books. You need to read, lectures. You need to participate and get intimate with the information as soon as you possibly can, because as soon as you know how to turn people on, how to create powerful, influential relationships, you can get intimate with them fast. And that is a driver of so many other things that make your life meaningful, that give your life, that shape the quality of how you live your life and how you manage your business and how you do everything. And, without relationships, you think about it, none of us would know very much. Because everything we learn, everything we know, we learn through a connection, through a relationship with somebody else. Even if we read it in a book, we had to have connection with people that gave us the book. And even if we bought the book from an anonymous source, we have to know that anonymous source existed in the first place, which means we had to have something to tell us, or someone to tell us that source existed. And so there's never a moment of anything we know, anything we do, that we're all alone in it. We're not. We're all connected. And so once you do that, once you learn that, once you understand that, then you look for opportunities to deepen those connections instead of running away from those connections. You want to deepen all those connections. Number 5, once you start getting this stuff right, once you start building powerful, passionate, professional relationships, you want to never stop doing it. You want to grow. You want to grow your relationships. You want to grow stronger in relationships. Relationships will make you more resilient. They'll make you more powerful. They'll deliver every time for you if you manage them correctly, right? You want to refresh those relationships. You want to look for openness, diversity. You want to look to strengthen those relationships with new ideas that are coming from all kinds of places. And guess what? Once you start building relationships with people, you need to keep building relationships with that person until you determine that there is no future for this relationship. And there's many ways you can get into figuring out that, all that kind of stuff, but the negative stuff is easy to find. But let's talk about the positive things you need to do to maintain consistency in your relationship, right? Understand that your reputation is built on your ability to be consistent in your professional relationships. That is the building block of what it is to be with you. And so you have to be really good at this, right? When you're doing something with someone else, figure out ways to celebrate, not just what you're doing, but celebrate the relationship. Have fun with it. Schedule the next program. Get involved with the next thing. Try to make sure that, you don't let the relationship go stale. You don't take the relationship for granted. Understand this. Dr. Covey said this, and I'll never forget it. Quality time with people is found inside of quantity time with people. If you have a core business relationship and there is no next scheduled meeting with this person, and I mean an interpersonal meeting, I'm not talking about a group meeting. If there's no next scheduled interpersonal meeting with this person, then your relationship is going to be strained because you don't have a reason. You don't have a reason to show up for one another. You don't have a reason to be there for one another. You don't have things that drive relationship forward and make that relationship solid. And I want to suggest to you that you spend the time to do it. Spend the time to connect, to drive connections. One of the reasons why, we try to create within the roundtable group that I founded along with Darren Marcourt, this ability to drive weekly connections at a minimum for the members of our network is because we want to give them something to look forward to, something that they can feel like they belong to, and they can feel like there is nobody who's going to look at them, give them the side eye. There's nobody going to ignore them. There's nobody going to make them feel like they don't belong or don't matter, because this is a place where we focus on making sure that they matter, making sure that their voice is heard, making sure that they're listened to, making sure that there's opportunities for them to follow up and follow through with their commitments with other people, making sure they have a way to make a meaningful contribution. It can't be understated that, just like number 6 says, you cannot buy your friends. You have to engage in meaningful, powerful, passionate ways to develop professional relationships. You just have to do it. You cannot get around it. Now, a lot of us, I realize, don't know how to do it. Don't know how to make small talk, which turns into big talk. Don't know how to create satisfactory connections, back and forth promises, and deliver on those promises, because you don't know what another person wants, because you're not really that interested. You know, if you're an introvert like me, I'm really not that interested. I'm not. But I know that if I want to create relationships with people, I have to be interested. So I dial up my interest, and I create tools and systems that help me manufacture an interest. And it's not false. It's truly authentic. By the time I get to a personal meeting with somebody, I want to do a true voice interview with them, I'm already interested. And I deepen that interest as soon as I start asking the true voice questions, because the questions make them focus and make me focus on them and make them focus on answering the question. Questions are a great thing to help people focus on one another. And as long as you can do it and not feel like an inquisition, it's really, really good. But back to number 6. Be careful what you pay for. Don't try to buy friendships. Even if it costs you some money to belong to an association or organization, come to a conference, do whatever you're doing, get dressed up for the gala, whatever it is you're doing, yes, it may cost some financial benefit or cost you something financially, but that is not the cost of relationship. That's the cost of entering the room. That's the cost of being in the same space or the same place, the same sharing the same opportunity with each other. The real cost of relationship has more to do with making contributions to the individuals in the room. So when you think about it, when you know what people want, what the key to their heart is, what drives their passions, because you've been interested enough to ask, inquire, to listen, and then you turn around and you deliver, it makes all the difference in the world. It makes all the difference in the world, because you know that you're doing something meaningful. You know that you're doing something powerful. You know that you're doing something that's relevant to another person. It's the greatest gift you can give to another person is the attention and then the benefit from that attention. That's your investment in relationship. That has nothing to do with, what your money pays for. So don't try to do it. I know some of you belong to fraternities, or you belong to organizations, or you're from something, that drives some level of commitment or idea, even a fan of the same thing, right? Same team, or the same mutual understanding of esprit de corps that may come from being a former whatever it is you were a former of, a former Army officer or Marine Corps or Navy, whatever it is you're doing, right? That might drive some connection. Used to alumni from some organization. Might drive, but that does not make you immediate friends. It makes you associates. To deepen the relationship, you've got to do more. You've got to make an investment, make a contribution to that person. Make sure that it's clear and it's upfront and it's honest and it's authentic and it's caring. If you can do those things, you're going to drive higher quality relationships. Number 7, you got to know the real benefits that you need from the relationship. Because if you don't know what you need from a relationship, how are you going to ask for it? How are you going to get it? How are you going to even know you got it when you got it? It's very, very important. And here where I'm going to lay some facts out for you that I think are key to understanding how relationships work. 95% again of all professional success absolutely depends on high quality, intense relationships. You don't do it if you think you're just going to dial it in, you're just going to show up to the meeting and sit in the back of the room, you think you're just going to not engage with people and build relationships, you're sorely mistaken. When you have great associations and connections with people, you dramatically reduce your social and emotional risk. You improve dramatically the social balance and your overall effectiveness. You're going to have more stronger affiliations. You're going to have more safety. You're going to dramatically reduce, if not completely eradicate, any feelings of loneliness, anxiety, or isolation. Right now in the COVID-19 era, right? So we're doing all this online stuff and we're doing all this virtual stuff, right? And people are lonely. They're lonely because it's not personal. They're feeling anxiety because they don't know what they can and cannot do. They don't know who they are. They're losing touch with themselves because no one else is getting in touch with them. So I value every single one of you who comes, especially if you come on a weekly basis and you share this moment and this time with us, just thinking about what it takes to drive meaningful connections in your life and in your business. Because I know that if you get this, if you follow the exercises, if you do the principles, if you understand what I'm talking about on these workshops and these seminars and any type of engagement that I have, then you're going to be better. You're going to be better. You're going to drive more opportunities. So I see a lot of my business friends are out there on the call right now. Sel Rand is on the call. Scott's on the call. Marcus is on the call. And listen, if there's some contact information or anything you want to share about you or your business, please put that in the chat. Please put it in the chat so other people can know who you are, know how special you are. Toot your own horn, and I'm going to help you toot it. So make sure you put your information out there. Thank you, Marcus. I love this comment. Marcus said, awesome as always. I really appreciate that, Marcus. You have no clue how meaningful that is coming from you. Because to me, if I can impress Marcus, then I don't have to do too much else. That's just the way I'm built. I love my Marines and my people who have done much to serve this country, including my boy Scott. Scott says hi to everybody. He says hi. It's important. It's important. So like I said, if you got some information that you want to post to the chat and you want people to know about it, you want to follow up with you, do me a favor, post it in there. I love to celebrate you. I love to honor you and make sure that people know who you are and where you're coming from. Because like I said earlier, we have to, as small business people, our attention is very disparate and it's divided and it goes all over the place. But we have to spend moments paying attention to each other, giving each other the gift of our attention. It matters so much when people are thinking about the wrong things and they're getting desperate and they're feeling anxious and they may be even becoming suicidal. You don't want that. You don't want that. You want to make sure that you've done everything you can. In fact, just mention it now. I wrote the rap report because I got tired of hearing people say wonderful things about people at their funeral. And I know they didn't say those things about them up front. So we had the high level approach to this stuff, and I want to give you guys the deep dive approach. I really broke this down. I really studied the neuroscience of connection. I really studied what ancient texts and wisdom is about connection. I got all kinds of quotes and all kinds of stuff I talked to you about connection. It's all right here in the document. So if you can download it, I would appreciate it. You feel free. I'm gonna see if I can post it again. There it is. Booyah. There it is. So that's that information. It's critically important. But I'm here on the bottom of page 8, and we're talking about the neuroscience. And there's some significant research that brought out a whole category of conversation around words and phrases that I had no clue about. And so I decided I would deep dive into it and really figure it out. And so here's what Nabil Ahmad wrote in his Science of Connection article, which you can go ahead and Google that article. I meant to put a link in here, but I guess I must have forgot that one. But you can Google the Science of Connection from Nabil Ahmad, and you'll find a lot. Some of the keywords that he mentioned in his article are brain synchrony, perspective taking, cognitive engagement, and social pain. Brain synchrony, perspective taking, cognitive engagement, and social pain. There's a rhythm to how we should initiate new relationships. And if you understand what the social brain is doing, and there's a part of our brain that's literally connected to everyone else, there's a significant amount of data that would suggest that looking and listening is the key to opening up and developing relationships. So think about it. How can you apply that? How can you apply looking and listening into developing new referral sources for yourself? How can you apply looking and listening to developing new professional relationships that could drive your next level of success. Whether that's, I need more funding, I need more marketing help, I need more help with administrative stuff, whatever it is that you need help with, because it's not your strength, right? You need to be able to identify people to relate to communicate with, to be with, that can help you in those key areas. And you need to build those relationships before you need them. So think about what the social brain is offering. It's telling you that we are always in the process of socialization. There is no, at any time, does our brain disengage from the social process. Even when we're thinking about something very deeply, we're focusing on some issue, we're focusing on it to the extent that we want to know how it affects us and how it affects other people if we were to gather that information and that data. That's how our brain is functioning. We can feel ourselves getting smarter. And because we feel ourselves getting smarter as we're researching or we feel better about who we are and how we interact with other people, because we're not ignorant anymore. We know something. When we know something, it gives us confidence. It helps us to engage in conversation because we've already done the work. So it's very, very important. Your brain, when you're learning something, try to learn it with a purpose in mind. Learn it to engage with other people. Learn it to share it with other people. Figure out if you can teach it. I promise you, your learning is going to be better. Your connections are going to be better. You're going to drive stronger engagement with other people. And it works with your spouse. It works with your kids. It works with everybody. Learn something based on an interest that you may have heard that someone else in your network has shared with you. And see that relationship grow and bloom. It's crazy how it works, but it does. Engage emotionally. Don't just engage cognitively. Figure out how someone feels about something. And then start that process of building the relationship based on those emotional connections. At some point, what's going to happen is your social brain is going to interact, and people are just going to feel good about talking to you. They're going to feel good about being in the same room with you because you're engaging on an emotional level, not just on a business or professional level, so to speak. People know when you're just all business with them and they're not having a good time when that's happening. They're not having a good time. You're not having a good time. And you need to stop that. When you feel like it's the conversations you have with people that are important to you are all about business and transaction all the time, then you're going to find that they no longer want to communicate with you. They don't want to deal with you. And they will disengage with you more often than they will engage with you. Now, having said that, you do need to engage cognitively. You need to determine common objectives. You need to have perspective taking, which is the act of looking at something through the eyes of someone else. It's a very specific type of empathy. It's not to the point where you want to feel exactly what they feel. You want to understand how they might feel. Because if you allow yourself to feel exactly how they feel, you're moving from empathy to sympathy. And sympathy is a weak relationship structure. Because when someone doesn't need your sympathy, then they resent it. They feel like, you're trying to do something that takes advantage of them. Empathy is more powerful. It's more important because they want to feel like somebody gets them, somebody understands them, somebody's with them. But people don't really need your sympathy. And so be careful about how you say walk in someone else's shoes. You don't want to walk in someone else's shoes. You want to understand what it feels like or what they might feel like to walk in their shoes. And there's a distinct difference because perspective taking doesn't mean feeling the same things that person feels. It means understanding what they might feel like. Okay. When you don't do this well, when you get this wrong, you don't create growth. You don't create social growth. You create pain. because then you say the wrong things, you do the wrong things, and you gesture the wrong way, and you do things that take people outside of their comfort zone in a way that's not good. It's not showing growth. It's making them feel bad about themselves. So you be very careful in communication how you deal with perspective taking. That's why feedback is really, really important. If you're trying to understand how somebody feels and you're basically dictating to them how they feel, not understanding how they feel, they're not going to feel understood. They're not going to feel like you're listening to them. They're not going to feel like you care. And so you need to ask the question. I hear you say this, and I can see if I saw it, if I were you, I'd probably see this, that, and the other. I look at it like this. Did I get that right? Ask for the feedback. Ask for the comment. Don't just assume you get it because they said it and you nodded. Yes, nodding is important to let them know that you're engaged and you're with them. But until you verbalize it, that you understand them, they're not going to feel understood. And then until they agree that you understand, you don't know that they feel understood. I know that's tricky, and there's a whole bunch of language in there, but just trust me on it. You got to get the feedback, and you got to articulate the listening very, very well. When I say look for interest bridges or try to find that common commitment, this is very important, because if you're working together, if you're collaborating, and you have a deeper understanding that you're considered, that this movement that you're making, this thing that you're doing together, whatever it is, a program, process, whatever you're doing, is meaningful to you both, and you understand the intensity by which it's meaningful to you both and individually, you're going to have more engagement. You're going to have increased performance. You're going to have better collaboration. But a lot of people don't want to communicate to this level. They don't want to say, this is what this means to me. This is why it's important to me. This is how I see it working for me. And they hold off a sort of an intimacy in a relationship that creates a disparate problem. You don't want to hold that back. If you're going to trust people, you got to just trust them. You got to start going. This is how you flex your relationship muscles. There are 4 steps I want you to remember. Actually, there's only 3 steps I want you to remember. The 4th step is sort of like a gratis thing. First step, though, is learn how to do small talk. If you're trying to get into some big opportunity with somebody and you don't warm it up first with some good small talk, you're going to find yourself. It's just like, jumping into a heavy workout without doing any warm up. You're going to tear something. You're going to rip something. You're going to do something that's dangerous, right? You don't want that. So you got to have that small talk. I used to think that small talk was a waste of time. But I realized, how critical now, after I've done this research, how critical it is to warm up a relationship before you ask for something or make even a promise to do something, because they're not ready for it. There's no connection. There's no desire for whatever it is that you're offering or whatever it is you're trying to do next. And so if I had like 15 minutes to talk with you and we talked about the weather and we talked about, the meeting, and we talked about how we're feeling about the background and all that kind of stuff and whatever it is that's going on, and that's recent, that we're both experienced and understanding, then you automatically are no longer armed. You're not worried about me. You're not concerned that, I'm out to get you or I'm going to be doing something dangerous. And that's when I can then go move the conversation into something more meaningful, something more significant. I can move from small talk to big talk. And we can get into, so tell me something about your family. Tell me something about, your occupation. Tell me something about what you do for fun, your recreation. Tell me how you manage the details to whatever's going on in your life right now. That's a method that I just shared with you really quickly called FORM. Family, occupation, family, occupation, resources, and it's money. This is really the M. But you don't want to talk about money. You want to talk about productivity. You want to talk about something that makes money. Put it that way. Engagement, whatever. So family form is a great way to create small talk that leads into bigger talk, right? And you want to share your feelings about things. You want to get them to share their feelings about something. And sometimes you may ask them if there's something that you seem to be interested in. You tell them how you feel about that. What does that mean to you? Why is that significant to you? What interests you most about that? And how do you feel about it? When you get people to emote, they are really starting to let down their guard. They're really starting to trust. And it's key in conversation to get to, because if you're not getting to trust fairly quickly in a conversation, you don't ever have the opportunity to do what you need to do with people. You got to get to trust. I see some more of my crew showing up here. Sean is in the house. Ben is in the house. It is great. I love this thought from Sean. Also the aha moment, like in the book Challenger Sale. That's right. Thank you, Sean, for mentioning that. That's so important that you find those moments where you're connecting on that level and you're having those epiphanies, because that is what's necessary to drive the next iteration of your relationship. If you don't have those, if you don't have something exciting, something meaningful, something interesting to talk about, to move the thing forward, then you're done. You don't have any more relationship. My friend Ben says pity, sympathy versus empathy and compassion, two different spectrums. He's right. He's absolutely right. By the way, if you guys are just joining in and you haven't already, definitely put in the chat anything that will help people connect with you, find more opportunities with you, jump in with you, whatever that means. If you want to share your elevator speech or your quick little marketing minute, whatever that is, I don't mind, put it in the chat. In fact, I'm going to do the exact same thing. So I'll let you know that, hey, it's not a problem. I want you to be able to introduce yourselves to each other, and in perpetuity, this will be in the chat. So if you have something that you want to share with somebody, a phone number or email address, or website, anything that you're interested in, or anything that might interest them, go ahead and throw that in the chat, because this moment is really all about us supporting each other and finding ways to work together. I'm not trying to hold you back from anything or hold anything from anyone else. And so to the extent that you can get the attention and use that attention to make something meaningful happen for yourself or for others, I'm all about it. So let's do that. So far, is there any questions that you guys have about connection? Because I'm going to get into some really deep stuff in just a second, as I'm copying my little signature block to share with you guys. There it is. Booyah! Blow! Look at that. There it is. Okay. And I'm going to post the document for today's discussion one more time, just in case it's way too far for some of you all to get to. I don't want you to say I didn't share it with you, I didn't give it to you. Okay, so anything that you want to share, whether you're on Facebook or LinkedIn or on YouTube, feel free to share it in the chat. Any questions you have, any conversations, anything you want to add to the conversation, again, feel free. I want as much engagement as possible. Even if you have a question that is out there, please share it. Okay, so let's get back to the topic. We already went through some of the neuroscience about engagement and connection, but I want to share with you a little more. So I'm here on page 11, and I looked into the research of a young lady named Emily Asafari Smith. She is a powerful researcher, journalist, and speaker about social connections and how they work. And she wrote an article called "Social Connection Makes a Better Brain." If you want to improve your brain, you want to improve who you are, what you're doing, you're going to have to use your social network better. You're going to have to engage more to get more. Social thinking is something, like I said earlier, we're always doing. Our social brain is always working. Even when we are at rest, our brain is thinking about how we fit into our social world. Whether we want it to or not, it is there. It's hardwired. That's something about part of our survival as a species. It is important that we acknowledge it and we use it. And do not try to disconnect your social brain. Even if you're successful at it, you're going to make yourself crazy. So don't do it, right? There's a social reward system that's out there for all of us. And it helps us to move through life and develop happiness. We're not going to be happy if we don't know how to use social thinking, if we don't know what our default network is always doing, and we don't know how to develop social reward systems for other people. So now I'm learning right now, my next project after I finish this series is going to be on resilience. How do you create, develop, and keep people into a more resilient mindset so they don't fall behind, they don't struggle when they don't need to? And so if you're interested in that, definitely keep following me. Pay attention to it. Hit the like button, hit the share button, do whatever you can to create this movement that I'm trying to create here with Coffee Tea You and Me. But there's always good stuff. Now, when I do my research, I always look at what the good book says, right? So I always look at that, not just because I'm a Christian, and I am. I make no apologies for that. But I do so with the understanding I also want to know what human beings wrote about back in the day. I want to know what the great thinkers who put the Bible and other ancient texts together, and it just became the Bible, what they were talking about and why they were talking about it. And so I'm going to share with you some high excerpts from that, and then I'm going to go into some questions and some exercises that you could do to really, really increase your skill at building and developing connections. We've always wondered why we're here and what it is that we do, what it is that makes us special as human beings, and why. We've always tried to figure that out. We've always tried to write about it. We've always tried to discover it. And what some of the passages that I have here in the Bible suggest is that we exist, human beings exist to be a conduit to and through each other to the universe itself. Our connection to the universe happens through one another. And so if you believe you're here with a purpose, and you believe you're here with a destiny, that purpose and that destiny is revealed and fulfilled through other people. So driving connection is a key and critical point that you're going to have to get to if you want to be happy. Now, success, you can do it without other people. Well, not really, but to a certain extent, at least you can tell yourself you're doing it without other people. But happiness requires real engagement with real people that you have in your network, in your world, in your society. I believe there's no getting around that. My faith is totally in that situation. And so I'm always excited about every person that I engage with, that I create and become a part of my network. Because I know there's a gift in every person there for me that I'm supposed to see, that I'm supposed to recognize, that I'm supposed to find and figure out how I can massage it in a way that's good for them and good for me. And I believe that's my purpose on the universe, is to help uncover those gifts and help create opportunities for those gifts to live. So if you got talent, you got a gift, you got something that you're familiar with, that you know that is uniquely here, is your purpose, is what you were put here to do, I want to know about it. I want to talk about it. I want to discuss it with you. It's very, very important. If no one else has told you this, I want to know what your purpose is, why you're here. And if you got some thoughts you want to share in the chat, go right ahead. Number two, the next thing I get from the Went to Ancient Text here is that we are individually and collectively connected to each other and everything. Therefore, we all matter. We all are significant. Now, there might be some argument that you might make that some of us are more significant than others, but I would tell you that argument only becomes clear when there's deeper, more meaningful connections to more people. The deeper, more meaningful your connections are to people, the more successful, the more happy, the more significant, the more relevant, the more meaningful you are going to feel and be in the universe that we speak in, that we live in. And I would suggest that you don't waste time trying to figure out how to be stronger in that. Do what you can to elevate that skill, to elevate that talent. The third thing that I get from the wisdom text is this: we make each other better. when we're connected. Now, there's some qualifications to that because we also can destroy each other. Good and evil exist. I truly believe that. And when we allow the goodness to flow through us to each other, through love and kindness and patience and friendship, we go a long way to repairing the damage that naturally occurs when we think about ourselves and we're selfish and we're hoarding and we're materialistic and, you know, we participate in the 7 deadly sins, right? Gluttony and, you know, what is the other ones? I don't even know the other ones. If you know if you know the 7 deadly sins, post them in the chat because I want to see. I want to talk about them. It's very, very important because when you again understand that neuroscience is now backing up what the ancient texts have always taught us about how we should and do relate to one another. And I'm not a person that looks science in the face and goes, you know, that's some stupid stuff. I'm a person that looks at it like, and by the way, it's okay to question everything because the question is what drives your focus. It what drives your attention and allows others to respond. But if you don't ask the question, not only do you seem to be uninterested, then you can't focus a conversation or a discourse in a way that makes you significant and makes you meaningful. And so this interplay we have between each other, these social connections we have, are so critical to just understanding and identifying who we are in the context of our communities and the people that we relate to. And we got to get involved. We got to get engaged. We got to ask questions. And it's not, by the way, impossible just because we're doing everything online right now. Get on a Zoom call with somebody and drive a more meaningful connection. So you can see their face. You can see their inflections. You can understand when they're thinking or when something is they're pensive about something or idea or concept. You can see it happening on their face. And you can ask the question, I must have lost you right there. Or that didn't really resonate the way I wanted it to resonate. What did you hear me say? And you don't have to take anything for granted. It's very, very important. Thank you, Sean. I really appreciate you. All right, he shared it with us. Here are the 7 deadly sins, guys: lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride. Is that 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's close enough. Very, very important that you understand that these are the things that we've always known that are dangerous for our world, dangerous for our society. And we got lost in materialism and all of a sudden they became good. We got to reverse this trend. And now we are more connected than ever is our opportunity to reverse this trend. It's our opportunity to get back to meaning, get back to passion, get back to significance that is related to something bigger than just ourselves. Okay, I'm not preaching anymore. I'm moving on to the next item. So let's talk about how, we're on page 13. Let's talk about some things you could do to really drive connections for your associates and for your new connections. Now, I'm a big believer that you should speak to every individual differently. And it flies in the face of all things marketing, because all things marketing are, so how do you drive the same message to a target audience, right? A group of people, right? When you're connecting, when you really want to do that kind of connection that resonates with people, it's got to be purposeful. It's got to be individual. It's got to be specific and meaningful to the person, not just to you, which means you got to be careful. So for existing associates, what you want to do is you want to discuss with them who they think they are, what it is they think they know about you, and you want to explore ways you can work together to make new connections happen and bring them into your association, bring them into your universe. You want to put an execution plan together with someone else. You want to get it done. You also want to find out what they like best about you and why. I'm going to be putting together a survey that's going to be talking about connection and how you drive connection, how we drive connection. And in asking the question, I'm going to force everybody who takes a survey to think deeply about what they like most about someone else and why, and to share that. Give them a chance to brag about somebody else. But in doing so, what you're telling people is what you love about other people, period. And if they can match that intensity and that connection with you, they're likely to get the same kind of love and respect that you offer to someone else. So it's very important that if you get a chance to take the survey, answer the survey, it's going to be really helpful to me, because I think it's going to say a lot about what we're looking for in people today and what drives our hearts and minds today. Ask for suggestions with people that you're working with of how you can leverage your brand. Meaning, how can you take what you have, what you are, in their minds and grow it? How can you take what you have and get it stronger, to a stronger position? Ask the question. They may know the answers. They may not know the answers, but they may have never thought about it. But even in asking the question, what you're saying to a person is, I value your opinion because you matter, because you're significant, because you mean something to me. That's why I'm asking you this question. Make a big deal out of it, because it's an important question to ask. And the feedback is important for you to have so that you can grow. They might even help you grow, but not until you ask the question, right? For new connections, you want to find out as soon as possible what, if anything, you have in common. Don't assume you don't. Assume you just haven't found it yet. When a person has made it on your top 10 list, and I suggest that everybody has a top 10 list of people that they know can make mountains move for them if they chose to. When you meet them, do everything you can to find out and identify what you may have in common. And once you know what you have in common, you want to get to know their favorite things. You want to find out what they do when they let their hair down. You want to see what they do for fun. Or if they don't do anything for fun and all they are is all business all the time, ask them why. Ask them what's important emotionally and socially about their business. Maybe there's something there that you're taking for granted or you don't know. But ask the question again. Find out what you have in common. Find out what their favorite things are. Write them down. Write everything down. Don't do it right in front of them. You know what I'm saying? So if you're talking to somebody, just make a mental note that they love this thing and this thing is important to them. And sort of when you construct your follow-up, try to construct it around something that's meaningful to them. They're likely to say yes to that follow-up. And that's the initial part of you coming together and building a relationship. All right. Write everything down. When you have some ideas and some thoughts about what's relevant to you, don't keep it a secret. Share it with people that you have in contact with, that you find the commonality with, because you never know, they may agree with the same thing. They may have some ideas that are going to move you in the direction. In fact, we all, back to this again, we all want to be meaningful. We all want to be relevant. We all want to be significant. But if we don't share with each other how to be relevant and meaningful and significant to us, then people are trying to guess it. They're trying to figure it out. They're trying to use whatever strategy they learned in class or whatever that is. And that may or may not work for you. So let people off the hook. If you really want to connect with them, tell them how to connect with you best. And then again, ask that last question I said to you before is, how do you extend your brand? How do you expand your brand? How do you become a resource to help them accomplish what they want to accomplish? A lot of people mess this up and they ask to help somebody too soon in their relationship. You just met me, now you want to help me. You don't know anything about me. I don't know anything about you. I don't know that I trust you. So unless you've established trust, asking to help somebody seems self-serving. And you want to be careful about that. Because yes, we all want to help each other. We all want to do better for and with each other. But there's a way that you need to do it that works for each of us. And if you make a mistake, then I think that you're going to have some problems. So Scott asked me this question: any thoughts on going back to Panera? And yeah, I am going to go back to Panera. As soon as I get my 2 shots. When I get my 2 shots, I feel safer. Being at a group in public and face to face. And I might not go to Panera. It might be someplace else that's like a little more open and a little more quiet. I might find a group or a place that will want to entertain a group of people like that. That must be maybe much better to start. That's how I feel about that. Unless Panera drives a partnership. By the way, if you guys know a place that's quiet and has a big table that people can sit at, I'm still going to broadcast this online. I'm still going to do it exactly the way I'm doing it right now, and go live from wherever I am. If you know somebody who would want to sponsor that and participate in that, let me know. Might be good for their restaurant or their establishment to think about, and I'll be more than happy to talk to them. Share their information with me, share my information with them, and we'll see what we can do to make something magical happen. I have people now on the call from Facebook and from YouTube. So we're looking good. We're looking good, guys. Let me see. Does anybody have any questions for me about driving connections? Who's been able to drive a significantly meaningful connection with someone else online that's out there? Anybody at all been able to do that? If you have, either put just 1 in the chat box. If you haven't, put 2 in the chat box. And we'll see if we can't drive a little engagement here. And here's why I asked the question. Because if you have been able to significantly do that online, starting with build a brand new relationship, the methodology, the rhythm, the strategy you use might be significant for other people. So I want to talk to you about that, and I want to learn about that. No, we don't have anybody who's been able to do it. Okay. Second question: would you like to drive significant relationships, professional relationships, forward online? Would that be something meaningful to you if you could do it, if you believed you could do it? And so if you say yes, then just type yes. I don't have to go with 1 or 2. Just put yes in the box. If not, then you don't. That's fine. That I don't see anybody chiming in. I don't see any questions, and so I'm gonna move on with the party. And if we don't have any more questions, I'm going to make sure that I sign off with a couple of promises. I promised you guys that I would get you access to my upcoming conference and do it in a very, very meaningful way. It's going to be on Saturday. It's going to be amazing. Literally, if there are people that you want to bring along, I'm going to make that available to you as well. Let me see here. How do I find I got a $45 discount deal. This is an all-day conference that we're going to be having with entrepreneurs and business leaders, and we're going to be teaching them everything they need to know to drive real leverage in their business. And that can be leveraged in any way you could think about it: financial leverage, social leverage, connection leverage, whatever kind of leverages you need to have in your business. In this conference, we're going to spend a full day talking about how you develop leverage. We're going to give you all the skills, all the things you need to know, all the tools that you need to know to develop massive amounts of leverage in your business. So I'm trying to find it. I can't even find my own link to my own conference, which is really sad. There it is. Okay. I tell you, sometimes it's hard being me. I got to go to my Eventbrite site. I got to sign in. Did that. Continue as me. Did that. And I got to log on. And eventually, I'm going to have it here. It's really going to happen. I promise. I do have a conference coming up. I have scheduled it. Come on, baby. There comes my list of events. And look at it. There it is. April 24th. The Leverage Up Conference is on sale. Yes, baby. So here it is. If I could just grab the post. I don't need for it to finish downloading first. Then I'm going to grab that post like that. There it is. Booyah. There's the conference. And if you guys want to come, this conference is going to be amazing. Literally, it's going to be all day Saturday conference, all virtual. No excuses. Anybody can get in. You don't have to. You can come in with your phone. You can come in with your computer. But I would make sure if you're doing it with your phone, you charge your phone up. That happened to us last time we did this. And it's going to be amazing. We got speakers coming in from all over the place. I'm looking for some new speakers. I'm looking for new sponsors. I'm looking for new guests. Tickets are on sale right now for $99. For those of you all who are part of this particular discussion, I'm going to get you a discount ticket as soon as I figure out how. But I do have a discount ticket available for just $45. Let me see if I can find that thing. Come on, baby. Come on. I have a slow internet today. Come on, baby. I know I got this ticket. I already put it together. No, that's not what I want. All right, I can't figure this out. So here's what I'm going to do. If you guys want the $45 discount ticket, do me a favor, post it in the chat that you want the ticket, and I will get it to you. Yeah, I know I'm having internet connection problems. And I will get that to you. Anyway, it's only a few of you all left on here anyway. So having said that, I'm going to bounce. We're going to have a great day, great show, great opportunity. Hopefully you all will follow us and come back to us next time. Had a great time. I'm going to go barbecue now. Bye-bye.